ELA Masters. Today we are going to be reading a nonfiction informational text called Leukemia. And this will help build our schema, right? About the atomic bomb sickness mentioned in Sadako and the Thousand Paper Cranes. And hopefully, this will help us understand more what is happening in the story. Just like I do with all informational text scholars, first I need to find the main topic by looking at the title and the headings. Then I'll be highlighting all of my topic sentences and putting them together to find one main idea. Can you say easy peasy? Good, friends. First, the main topic. I noticed that my title is leukemia, and I'm seeing here that the headings say leukemia, causes, symptoms, and treatment. So I know that symptoms are the things that are happening physically to your body that show you that you are sick. And treatment is how we try and treat when you are sick. So it sounds like leukemia is, and we know from our schema as well, a type of sickness. Let's go ahead and add leukemia sickness to our Google form. What is the main topic of this text? The main topic is leukemia sickness. If you need to, pause your video to type that in now. Good. Let's keep reading. Remember, after each paragraph, I'm going to ask myself, what was the topic sentence? What was the sentence that best described what this paragraph was about? Leukemia. What is leukemia? Leukemia is a kind of cancer in your blood cells. When someone has leukemia, large numbers of abnormal white blood cells are produced in the bone marrow. The body then has too many white blood cells, and the blood cells with leukemia do not work the way that they are supposed to. Instead of helping your body fight off germs and sickness, they don't do anything. This makes it harder for a person with leukemia to fight infections, control bleeding, and transport oxygen. Wow. ELA Masters, I think this first sentence best describes what leukemia is, and the rest of the paragraph give me details about how that works. Leukemia is a kind of cancer, and it occurs in your blood cells. Your blood cells are the many tiny microscopic parts of your blood that you would see under a microscope. Scholars, if someone has leukemia, what does their blood have too much of that causes them to become sick? Tell me. Yes, way to pay attention to those details, friends. The body has too many white blood cells. And when a body has too many white blood cells, it makes it hard for that person to fight off regular sicknesses that you and I can get rid of easily, like having a cold or having a fever. Let's add that to our Google form. There are too many of these in the blood of people who have leukemia compared to people with normal blood, and this makes it harder for people with leukemia to stay healthy. They have too many white blood cells. If you need to, pause your video so you have time to type that in now. Let's keep reading. Today, leukemia accounts for about 30% of all childhood cancers and affects more than 3,000 American young people each year. Wow. Luckily, the chances for a cure are very good with leukemia. With treatment, most children with leukemia will be free of the disease without it coming back. Wow, it sounds like leukemia, this cancer, mostly affects children. But luckily, it seems that now it's largely treatable. I think that this last sentence best describes the effect of leukemia on children. A lot of children get it, but most will be free of the disease if they are treated. Let's move on to paragraph 3. Causes. Now I'm thinking, as a good reader, that this whole section is going to be about what causes this cancer, leukemia. Scientists do not entirely understand the exact causes of leukemia. It seems to develop from a combination of genetic and environmental factors. That means it could be something you are born with, genetic, or it could be caused by things around you, environmental. Again, I know that the topic sentence is usually the first sentence or the last sentence, and it seems like this second sentence gives me more details about that last sentence. How leukemia can develop from something you are born with, or it can be caused by things around you, those environmental factors. Let's go ahead and check our understanding. Leukemia can be caused by something you're born with, genetic factors, or environmental factors, the things around you. Agree or disagree? Right, friends, this is true. If you need to, pause your video and select that now. Good. Let's keep reading. There are certain risk factors that scientists believe could increase a person's risk of getting leukemia. That means that the risk of that person getting leukemia is higher if these things happen to them. These include exposure to certain chemicals. That means you're around toxic or poisonous things, smoking, or a family history of leukemia. If members of your family have had leukemia, you have a higher chance of having it as well. Friends, let's think back to this section of Sadako and the 1,000 Paper Cranes that we read. Which of the following risk factors that scientists believe could increase a person's risk of getting leukemia can explain how the radiation, a kind of poisoning from the bomb, could cause leukemia? This was Mr. Sasaki. And he prayed that his family would be protected from the atom bomb disease called leukemia. Many still died from the disease, even though the atom bomb had been dropped on Hiroshima 9 years before. It had filled the air with radiation, a kind of poison that stayed inside people for a long time. Could this radiation be evidence of exposure to certain chemicals, smoking, or a family history of leukemia? Which one? 1, 2, or 3? Tell me. Right, friends. This detail here, radiation, a kind of poison that stayed inside people, is an example of exposure to certain chemicals. Just like we want to make sure we don't breathe in something toxic or poisonous, well, friends, the atomic bomb unfortunately had that radiation, which was toxic or poisonous, and was in the air in Hiroshima for many years after. If you need to, pause your video and select that now. Good. Can you tell me What is one cause of leukemia? Right. It could be something you're born with or an environmental factor like certain chemicals, smoking, or a family history of leukemia. Scholars, I think that this first sentence tells me about what the rest of that paragraph, oops, that was the wrong color, what the rest of this part was about. It explained the risk factors that could exist, either what you're born with or what's around you, that can cause you potentially to get leukemia. Let's read the next section. Symptoms. I know from my schema that symptoms are, again, the physical things happening to your body that tell you that you are not feeling well. Leukemia symptoms may be different in every person, but some common signs and symptoms include fever or chills, constant tiredness or weakness, dizziness, frequent infections, easy bleeding or bruising, frequent nosebleeds, tiny red spots in your skin, or bone pain or tenderness. Friends, that does not sound like that would be a pleasant experience for someone who has leukemia. And here I see a diagram of what the blood of someone who has leukemia looks like. All of these abnormal white blood cells. Scholars, can you tell me 3 symptoms that someone might have if they had leukemia? Right. As I'm looking at all these symptoms, I realized that one of them seemed like it was mentioned in Sadako and the Thousand Paper Cranes. Can you tell me, what do you think that symptom is? Right, friends. We heard yesterday that dizziness is a symptom that was mentioned in Sadako and the Thousand Paper Cranes. If you need to, pause your video to write that in now. Good. Scholars, because this is not a complete sentence, I don't need to highlight a topic sentence here. Let's read paragraph 6. Treatment. Here, I know from my schema that treatment is how we get better from a sickness. The goal of treatment for leukemia is to destroy the leukemia cells and allow normal cells to form in your bone marrow. So, those are those abnormal white blood cells here. Today, treatment usually includes chemotherapy, which uses strong drugs to kill the cancer cells. In the 1950s, there were not as many drugs available to cure cancer, and only 33% of cancer patients survived. That means the other 67%, unfortunately, must have passed away. Friends, as I'm reading this paragraph, I notice that this second sentence tells me what treatment is primarily used to cure leukemia. And that treatment is called chemotherapy. And it uses those medicines to kill the cancer cells. Good. So, scholars, how is leukemia cured? Tell me. Right. It's cured using this treatment called chemotherapy. Let's type that into our Google form. If you need to, pause your video to type that in now. Good. Friends, I noticed that it says in the 1950s, there were not as many drugs available to cure cancer. So it seems like now, thankfully, children are able to receive chemotherapy. But does it sound like that was available during the setting we're reading about? Hmm. Let's keep reading. Once there have been no signs of leukemia for 5 years, a person is considered cured. However, the leukemia could still come back. Scholars, I think that this first paragraph or this first sentence describes what is hopeful about treatments such as chemotherapy. But, friends, I can't help but think about how not too long ago in the 1950s, treatments like chemotherapy didn't exist for all the people who had leukemia. I can imagine, especially knowing now from my schema, that most of these patients were children, that this is pretty awful. I know that I have my historical fiction journal that I've made for myself, and for you, that could be your special notebook or a blank piece of paper to help me process that. I wonder what it might be like to have cancer earlier in the 1950s, but not a way to treat it. Scholars, now I'm going to put together all of my topic sentences to form my two repeating topic sentences that form my one main idea. So, here, a repeating idea I heard a lot is that leukemia is a cancer in your blood that mostly affects children. And it can be caused by either something that you're born with or exposure to certain chemicals. My two topic sentences were leukemia, a blood cancer, can be caused by genetic or environmental risk factors, such as exposure to chemicals. And many childhood cancers are leukemia, but they can be treated with chemotherapy. When I put these together, I have many children who have cancer have a blood cancer called leukemia, which is caused by genetic, you're born with it, and environmental, things around you, risk factors like exposure to chemicals. ELA Masters, when you've finished double checking all your answers, go ahead and click Next to continue.